Good morning. This is August 7th, 2018. This is the pre-agenda for the Board of County Commissioners. So today we're going to go over the BoCC draft agenda, and then for August 7th, and the BoCC draft agenda for August 14th, and the BOH, the Board of Health draft agenda for August 14th also. So we'll start with the draft agenda for today, which is August 7th, and we have Commissioner Edwards leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And then we'll move to approve the agenda for August 7th if there's no modifications. And then we have the board meeting minutes for July 31st, 2018. We do have one presentation, and that's a presentation is the proclamation for National Farmers Market Week. And I don't know if you're going to couch it or frame it, but remember,
yes,
Chavez is the county manager. We do have a proclamation to read, and so
I believe Commissioner Hutchins will read the proclamation, but I will introduce the representatives from the Olympia Farmers Market, the Tumwater Farmers Market, and I believe a couple of other farmer market representatives that will be here. And so when we narrow down the individuals who will be attending, I will introduce them accordingly, and you'll have the opportunity to express your appreciation for their work.
Sure. And each recipient has a copy to take.
Yes, we have plenty.
Okay, good. Just double checking. Sure. Any questions on the farmers market?
Nope. Looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah, that's a fun one. So the next item we have is the opportunity for the public to address the board. Is there anything?
I really don't have any expectations, but perhaps you may hear comments on. I think in the open space, you will be setting a public hearing.
Oh, sure.
Later on today, and that will be for the Lakemore open space, and maybe something you may be hearing.
Yep,
you also may be hearing something related to the Lake St. Clair.
Oh, St. Clair,
and you have an item on the agenda later today to discuss that matter a little more in detail as well.
I see that, number 4. Okay. Any questions on?
No.
All righty, so the next item is the county manager's update. Is there anything particular you need to
Yes,
address right
I only have one update, and the county received 2 performance awards. One is for the Boston Harbor Wastewater Treatment Plant, and the other one was the Thompson Wastewater Treatment Plant. I believe Jennifer Walker, the Public Works Director, as well as the supervisor for the wastewater utility, Kevin Patchen, will be attending this afternoon. I will read those proclamations, and that will give you the opportunity to also extend their appreciation to staff.
Yeah, great, sure.
Yeah. That's good, that letter.
Thomashan and
Boston Harbor.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Is that, you've got two A's, I don't know, I mean, just, is there a reason for that?
No, there is no reason, other than InfoPath has inserted an extra A under county manager. I'll go on my.
I thought we had a new alphabet, so that's good.
Thank you.
I do have a question on county manager's update.
Yeah, go ahead.
You've got follow-up on citizens issues.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the only one that you're planning on addressing?
Yes, that's the only one.
We've had this issue brought to us about how much taking is too much taking by citizens. I think that's a regulatory issue that they're expecting some kind of an answer before too long. And we also had an issue brought by a retired game official about not allowing salmon up the Deschutes River. Do we have anything more on either of those 2 issues?
Yeah, on the taking, I have scheduled an executive session this Thursday.
Okay.
With your prosecuting attorney, because that's a very complex issue. And you need to hear from your legal counsel as to what the potential options you have related to the taking, as you stated.
Might you want to at least let the public know that we're going to talk about it in an executive session? You
just did.
They're not going to be there. No, but I mean, usually when the county manager gives his address, they talk about it.
What I will do is when I walk you through your weekly schedule,
yes,
then I will highlight that appointment.
Very good.
The assignment, that is testimony that I believe you received last Tuesday.
Yes.
I'm going to be engaging Public Works to see how we can verify that particular statement. So
Okay.
I have no updates whether that statement is correct or not. I think that requires a little more time to get to the bottom of that.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. That completes the county manager's update. So the next item is number 3, which is consent items A through H, and we'll just go through each one. Those we've already touched on, we'll kind of be brisk about. The others we might need to stop and have a little longer conversation. But so item A is a request to cancel outstanding warrants, and that's a financial item.
Yeah, this is a procedural request from Financial Services to the commissioners to retire. In this case, it's 234 outstanding warrants. Total cost of $5,275.52. Those are the warrants they have lapsed when have passed over a year and they have no cash those checks in a way. And through that extent, out of the 234 warrants, 224 are related to jury services and mileage. So it's when the county issues and writes a check to the jurors and they don't cash in a year, then we have to retire. That equates to $5,084. Also includes some Superior Court checks. They have also issues related to jury services. Those are 7 on the cost of $138. And the last one is J&K Healthcare Enterprises. Those are 2 warrants, the value of $8. That equates to the 234 warrants for a total of $5,275.52.
Commissioner Hutchins has a question.
I just want the public to know that those retired warrants, that just means the check has gone longer than it can, and so the check expires.
Longer than 1 year.
1 year.
Yeah.
However, we still owe the money to the recipients, and so if they come back in saying, hey, I lost my check, it shredded, the dog ate it, whatever, they will receive their fund.
That will be upon request when those individuals will come, and they will honor that.
Got it, okay, thank you.
Okay. So item B, any questions on A? Okay, sure. A, now we're going to move on to B, which is the Community Planning and Economic Development, a resolution increasing a position to full-time, and that is an assistant planner.
Yeah, this is a request for the commissioners to increase a half-time position to a full-time position. Excuse me. In this particular, the half-time position is funded by a grant through the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, and they have received additional funding that justifies the full-time position. And this particular position will be funded to develop the repair and restoration program for the next 3 years in the county. There is no impact on the general fund.
Okay. You always get ahead of me on that issue. No.
Any comments?
No.
Okay. 3C is the Sheriff's Office. This is also a resolution establishing a position for a deputy sheriff.
Yes, this is a little bit complicated. You authorized last week an agreement with the North Thurston School District to provide a resource officer to the North Thurston Middle School, I believe, one of the middle schools. I was under the impression that particular action was going to be done by an overtime basis as any other resource officer in the Sheriff's Office that provide the services to schools has been done. It came to my attention last week on Friday when I came back to the office that perhaps that's not the case. They would like to create a new position, the Sheriff's Office. So this particular action is for you to create a new position that is going to be doing 2 things. One is the resource services with the North Thurston School District. In the remaining of the year, in the summertime, they will be providing boating activities. There has been some interaction with the Sheriff's Office as to how this is going to play. And they say they will be funded in $95,000 with the resource officers with the North Thurston School District, and the remainder will be coming from the boating grant that's coming from the state as well. I have a particular concern on this particular matter because the creating a full-time position on based on a grant or an agreement that may be lapsing or may not be renewed in the next 2-3 years, then the general fund will be impacted by the full-time position. So I'd like to request for you to delay this action for until next week and have the opportunity to express my concerns to the Sheriff's Office. And it may be, or you can take an action of not approving this particular action, and you can request also the Sheriff's Office to do it on an overtime basis as any other resource officers have been done for other school districts. So those are the options that I'd like to provide to you today. I have not got the chance to circle back with the undersheriff on this particular matter to express my concerns. So,
you got a question? You got a question?
Oh, you bet.
Yeah. Okay.
What's the difference between the item that we just got done saying okay in creating from a half-time to a full-time
In the CPAD.
in the CPID, and the difference of creating that same position for the sheriff under similar funding?
So the difference between the previous one is when the grant lapses, that position will disappear on the CPAD.
Okay, I mean, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, is a grant-funded position.
The other difference is the grant fully funds the position, and with the school resource officer, the contract is not.
Well, it sounds like the boating funds the other portion of that.
The boating only funds the other portion of salary, so the boating portion is approximately $10,000. The remaining costs of the position, the car, the equipment, and other items related to that position, training, the academy, the sheriff's office is proposing that they will absorb.
But I believe your question is related to if the CPAD position was a grant-funded position.
Yes.
What happens if the grant funds disappear? Mm-hmm. In that case, that position will disappear as well.
Why can't that same caveat be placed on the other?
Perhaps you have the option to say you create this position as long as the grant in the contract is available, and at that point, when those two are no longer a part of the financial aspect, that position will be terminated, and that's an option that you can consider as well.
Anything else? Okay.
I'm just confounded by the way this whole process took place. Because typically a department would ask for a full-time position and say this is what he or she is going to do. As it was proposed last week, this was for the school district wants to enter into an SRO, school resource officer contract or MOU with the county, and they would pay X amount of dollars for that position. As we were told, I remember it was going to be paid for by the school district and come out filled in with overtime funding. And then on the back of that was the week before last, and then on back of that, then we get the proposal to hire an FTE to fill behind that position. So here's the end result, but now we're going to come in around the back and blindside you. Well, here's a full-time request for a full-time position. I cannot not support an SRO, but I'm not comfortable with the way this whole process took place. Because now we're looking at, well, you have to fill it now because you've created a vacancy, which causes me to say if we don't fund an FTE, the sheriff is running one fewer deputies on the road because one's in the school 7, 8, 9 months out of the year. And so I'm in favor of pulling this to delay it until you have a conversation with either the sheriff or the undersheriff explaining all this and getting some more information about how this took place, because that's not normally how we do business. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
It makes sense because you said it, didn't you?
It makes sense.
I hope I said it, so it makes sense. I can't not support the SRO.
And that action that you took last week already entered that into that agreement with the North Thurston School District. So now
Right.
is the county's obligation to provide those services based on that agreement.
Correct.
That is the requirement on that agreement. The question at this point is how to.
Right.
Yeah, so the sheriff runs with one fewer deputies on the road, X amount of months out of the year, or we approve a full-time position. Is that correct?
No.
Explain that to me then.
Well, because there's overtime that's gonna fill that position. The same number of deputies will have to work a few more hours, and it'll be overtime.
Okay. And I get that, and the overtime was the issue. They didn't
Because
bring up-
any other resource officer in other school districts, they work on an overtime basis.
Yes.
And again, and I take responsibility because I believe when I introduced this matter to you, the agreement with the North Thurston School District, I was under the impression that it was going to be on an overtime basis. So perhaps I also provided some erroneous information to you before that decision was made. But this item came after that was submitted. So we just complemented
Yeah.
the whole issue.
But what confounds it just a bit further is the overtime has always been an issue within the department, within any department, but especially the sheriff's office with overtime. And if we don't fill a position, there's going to be it's going to bust the bank again.
Yeah, and as far as I understand, the resource officer the common practice has been on their overtime basis. So there's a little bit different practice the sheriff's office is trying to implement.
All right. Just one final comment, Gary. I was under the impression, well, not under the impression, I was told that with the school district, with the funding they're paying for the school resource officer includes a vehicle. You might want to check in with that as well.
Yeah, it does not.
Yeah.
All right. So any other comments?
No, that pretty well takes care of it, other than I think it's pretty obvious
So
that
are you
we
for-
support the whole process of trying to get deputy sheriffs, but we just need to know
You're looking for
how
clarity?
this funding clarity is gonna,
Yeah.
how we can clarify exactly how this is gonna impact the general fund budget.
So,
Or not?
or not.
Yeah.
So the options that we'll provide to the undersheriff will be either they will continue with the program of providing resource officers on the overtime basis, or perhaps this position will be limited until the agreement is in place and the grant funds are available
And continue to be available?
and continue to be available
Right.
For the full-time position.
for the full-time
Yeah.
position.
Right.
And I'd like to confirm that those are the options that will be provided to the undersheriff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Terry.
From me, I didn't hear it all. I was reading something saying, can you state them again?
So the options is continue with the common practice.
Oh.
Any resource officers will be
Overtime.
on their overtime basis. Or if this position is created as a full-time to provide those services to the North Thurston School District, will be limited until the agreement is in place and the funding is available. When and if those agreements are no longer valid or lapsing, that position will be eliminated.
Contingent on those funds?
Contingent to those.
Sure. And one more thing for me, in the description, where it says the approval portion of the resolution, is it appropriate to say for SR, for school resource officer? To
Yeah,
name
we'll
that- to
we'll
name-
clarify that.
To name that in there?
Yeah. And when I have a conversation with the undersheriff, we'll most likely modify that motion.
Yeah, I want that title in there.
Okay.
And I just want to be clear, I support the sheriff's office and increasing deputies when we can do this in a responsible way. This is only about process, is my concern.
Okay, so we're going to take this one off for today.
Okay.
All righty, we're going to move on to D, which is a community planning and economic development. This is an appointment to the Historic Commission, and this is Beth Matthews.
Yeah, and I believe you discussed this last week, and it's just a confirmation of your decision to appoint Ms. Beth Matthews to the Historic Commission for the term of August 7th, 2018 to August 7th, 2022.
Any questions about Beth?
No.
Nope. Okay, we're going to move on. Item E, which is an appointment to the Emergency Medical Services Council. This is Dr. Sheila Fay.
I believe you also discussed this matter last week, and this is just a confirmation again of your decision. And this appointment of Dr. Sheila Fay to the Emergency Medical Services will be from July 20, 2018 through July 19, 2020.
Any questions, comments about Dr.? Nope, we're good. So we'll move on to item F, which is another community planning and economic development item, appointment to the Storm and Surface Water Advisory Board. This is Crystal Kyer.
Yeah, likewise on the other two appointments. This is the appointment for Miss Crystal Kyer to the Storm and Surface Water Advisory Board for District 3, and this appointment will be from August 7, 2018 to August 7, 2021.
Alrighty, any questions about Ms. Kyer? No? Okay, item G, which is the Community Planning and Development, the reappointment to the Thurston County Fair Board. And this is Heidi Thompson.
Yeah, this is a reappointment for Ms. Heidi Thompson. She's currently serving on the Fair Board. And this, the reappointment, which is for District 2 at large, it will be from September 1st, 2018 through August 31st, 2022.
Any questions, comments about Heidi?
No.
No? Okay. Going to move on to item H, which is the Financial Auditor's Office, which is the Financial Services, and it's Darren Bennett, and those are attached to the website. So we're going to move into the department items. Item number 4 overall, which is the Public Health and Social Services. This is approval to amendment number 3 to the Washington State Department of Health 2018-2020 Consolidated Contract CLH 18264.
This consolidated contract is the mechanism in which they send federal and state funding to public health services here in the county. In this particular amendment number 3, what it does is increases this allocation by $198,151 for a total of $1,165,107, and goes from January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2020. In addition to increase the funding, they also make some amendments for the statements of work related to the foundational public health services, the communicable disease and support capabilities, Office of Immunization and Child Profile, prenatal hepatitis B, and OICP. I have no idea what that is, but the director is here. And a promotion of immunization to improve vaccine rates. And Shelley Slider's here. If you have any particular questions on this particular program.
In contracts?
I'm curious what that acronym is.
We want to know what the acronym is.
Put you on the spot.
That's okay. Probably the Office of Immunization something. Okay. OICP.
And maybe in the meantime, while she's looking that up, why was $198,000 added to this? What was that? I mean, it's a pretty good amount by the time you add it all up, but how come that just got?
I believe that it's not unusual, the federal and the state grants, after they go through the process, whether some jurisdictions may utilize all the money or not, and they redistribute to other jurisdictions that might use it. So it's not unusual to have those amendments, Commissioner.
Okay.
You have it?
Thanks to Josh, our CPED director, the Office of Immunization and Child Profile.
Well, you had it, right? You just didn't have the whole.
I couldn't remember what the CP stood
That's
for.
fair. Okay.
The biggest increase is the Foundational Public Health Services, and that is our second year of allocation. So the legislature awarded 2 years of funding, so that's the biggest increase. The others are small increases in some of our other existing programs that the state received additional grant funding from the federal government. So as Robin stated, I feel like this is really loud today. As Robin stated, the CON is typically reviewed every 2 months, and so we come back every 2 months with hopefully additional funding for us to do our work in various areas.
You have something?
Other questions?
No.
And the con, just for the audience?
The consolidated contract.
There you go.
It is the mechanism of which our state and federal funding are transferred to us to execute
I love
our
that, the
various
con.
activities.
The con in the military means,
con.
and if I got the con, I guess that's even better.
And I can, if you would like, I can share a little bit more information about those programs.
Go ahead. Take a second.
Well, I was going to say if you wanted me to do that this afternoon.
Oh, this
for the
afternoon?
public.
Sure. Yeah, for the public, general public, sure. Anything else? Later on, can you talk a little bit about the nurse-family partnership grant piece there for nurses and other? It's on my mind, but we can talk about it later. So.
In this consolidated contract, there is no funding for nurse-family partnership.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying after the meeting
after
today?
the-
Oh, sure, of course. Happy to do that.
All right.
Thank you, Shelley.
Item number 5 under department items is Public Works. This is a resolution and call for seal bids for Grand Mound Reservoir number 2 project, County Project 94025.
Yeah, I believe you reviewed this item last week and you have some questions. This particular project has been in the works for quite some time. And the purpose of intent of building a new reservoir is really to accommodate the growth of the Grand Mound area. There is really no particular beneficiary from this particular reservoir. It's really just a matter of how we manage the demand of the utility. This is going to be funded by the refunds, well, the utility rates. And what is happening right now, the reservoir number 1, we're getting into the fire flow protection capacity. So really there's no longer capacity to provide any additional water to any developer who wants to go and build in the Grand Mound area. As a result of building this additional capacity, through the normal process, every single developer, every single user will have to pay a connection fee. And that's how we manage and start collecting some of that investment that you will may consider through this process. And Jennifer is here, the proposal director, if you have any additional questions on that.
Any questions?
I don't think that is, not at this point.
Nope. We're good. All righty. So that would be 5. We're going to move to number 6, which is the Community Planning and Economic Development Department. And then 6A is to set a public hearing, Lakemore Open Space Tax Program application, and for September 18, 2018.
Yeah, this is a request from staff for you to set a public hearing for you to take public testimony on the Lakemore Open Space Tax Program application. As you may recall, you have been receiving a lot of feedback related to this particular matter. And this will be an opportunity for you to hear on a public stage all the pros and cons as any particular action that you may consider. This is scheduled for Tuesday, September 18, 2018 at 5:30 here in this room. We have set up for 5:30 to allow any citizens to come and give their perspective to you. At that point, I'm not expecting you to make a decision on September 18th. My recommendation is for you to hear public testimony, and then we'll schedule a follow-up briefing for you to weigh in all the testimony you receive before you consider a final action.
Sure.
Yeah, and that is it's just 2 questions for Josh. Aside from, and we've had several people over a couple meetings that come in to make public comment during the BoCC meeting. So with this meeting coming up, is there outreach done to that association to let them know this public hearing is coming up besides these meetings and what might be posted online? Do we contact the association, say put the word out to your
The whole neighborhood.
constituents, everybody knows?
I'm going to hand the mic over to Planner Andy DeFobis.
Yes.
Morning, Andy.
Good morning. So notice of the public hearing will be published in the newspaper of record, which is the Olympian. I'll also let the applicants know, if the board does schedule that hearing today, I'll let the applicants know that that happened. I've also been keeping track of all the people that have submitted written comments to me, and anything I send process-wise to the applicants to keep them apprised, I send to this other group, because I know there's a whole lot of folks watching this that want to know what's going on and know when their opportunities are to weigh in.
Good, because they were on this issue. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, good. All right. 6B is the amendment to Buildings and Construction Code Title 14 TCC. And that's Jeremy?
Yeah, I believe you had a discussion last Tuesday on this, and I did watch via YouTube that discussion, believe it or not. This proposal, I believe you would like to consider as presented to you, which includes the following. Increasing the size of exempt single-family residential storage buildings in the rural area that will increase, this is without a permit, okay, from 200 square feet to 400 square feet. And also you will keep the UGA at 200 square feet with the understanding you have directed to staff to follow up with the cities as to how that can be changed in the near future. That is my understanding of that action. Secondly, the amendments will also exempt exterior siding replacement, same size windows, and door replacement require no framing modification, solar panels, and replacement of electric forced air heating units and electric water heaters. Also includes the expiration time of the building permits will be extended from 180 days to 1 year, and extended the time of purchasing an approved plan for 1 year as well. Amendments to the fire code includes clarification of standards and allow an administrative waiver for fire flow where the occupancy is no more hazardous than the existing occupancy. It also amends chapter 14.38, the development in special flood hazard areas that are necessary to retain the current federal emergency management agency community ratings class 2. And that is a benefit to the citizens who are in the flooding area. They can get a lower rate insurance, flood insurance. That is in a nutshell, unless you have any questions. And staff will present that this afternoon with a little more detail as to what this action they might be taken will do.
Yeah.
Is there any approximate time that we might be made aware of what it might take to include the urban growth area in this code amendment at some future date? Or even if we would include it? And one of my questions are, is there differentiation between what we're doing on the windows, the hot water heater, a couple other things that you mentioned there, and the UGA? So are we only adjusting Title 14 for outside the UGA on everything?
No, I believe Title 14 includes everything in the unincorporated areas of the county.
Except
the building.
Building 200 to 400?
Yeah, I believe that is the case, but.
Yes, Commissioners, that's the case. The only differentiation is in the exempt building size. So everything else applies countywide in the unincorporated county.
Okay, and my question is, once we find out if we're locked in on within the UGA on the 200 versus 400, I'll just say it that way, are we then going to be required to have to go back and do the whole hearing process and everything again to make that single adjustment under 14?
Yes, sir. We would have to hold another public hearing in order to make that adjustment.
Okay, but we could do it now, but it might conflict with some type of an arrangement we've made with some of the municipalities?
So there's two items. One, it might conflict with what some of the municipalities have in their codes and what our agreements have been. But the second item is that we do actually need to hold another public hearing because the original notice and all the materials that went out communicated to the public that we weren't proposing to change that. And so we need to give out that notice to allow people to comment on that change.
Okay, so to meet all the requirements of, say, the Growth Management Act, regardless of how we proceed today, to include the urban growth area in that 200 to 400 adjustment, we would have to have a public hearing and work through the process.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I want to add that people are very excited about this. We've been fielding a lot of calls. So.
Well, no, I believe they are, but I think there's those people in the UGA that think they're also gonna be able to benefit. And now it looks like they're not until we find out if we can even move forward on that, because
Yes,
there's
sir.
some agreement with the different municipalities, so. Okay, I'm ready to go.
Are you getting any feedback from the municipalities?
We haven't had a chance to reconnoiter with them yet. I'm going to work with Josh on communicating to the planning directors and ask for their feedback through that.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Jeremy.
One more question. This goes maybe for Josh too. On this one, what is the community engagement, PR plan that goes along with this to let the world know that we are doing this in layman's terms?
So I'll answer the last question first. We've had informal conversations on this, but we still need to have a staff level formal discussions on the 200 to 400 in the UGA. So we've started that conversation already, but need to have it in a more formal way. And in terms of public outreach after the decision, Jeremy's got this listed as a press release we've got ready to go, posting on the county main page, published notice in the Olympian, email notice to Community Planning and Economic Development email list, and a public information handout. So we've got a whole suite of things ready to go.
Okay.
Impressive.
We're excited to help the citizens of Thurston County.
That's what I wanted to say at the top. That'd be great. You agree?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
One other question, I'm just curious, how many properties are within the urban growth area that are not gonna be able to take benefit of the 200 to 400? I mean, I'm just wondering, is it 100, 500? I have no idea.
Maybe we can take that question and bring you back the answer at
Okay.
a later date.
Yeah.
That will be very difficult at this point to bring the answer to that question.
Okay, but I'm ready to go on the ordinance adjustment.
I'm happy to unclog the pipe and deliver services directly and more fluidly to the public. This is great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't put that at the top.
On the news
Good,
release.
very good job, Jeremy. Thank you very much.
All righty. So that takes us into number 7. Before we do, I have a question on number 4, Shelley. On the consolidated contract, does that require a public PR kind of thing, community engagement piece there to press release, anything like that? I'm just curious. Oh my God.
Yes, I know that you were interested in doing that, and I think that some of the activities within the consolidated contract, we could definitely promote to the public, such
Yeah, I just
as
wanna
some
tell
of the
the world.
immunization work, and there's a couple, and for sure foundational public health and a couple other things. So
Sure.
we'll be, for those activities that are of great interest to the public, we'll be doing some social media work on that. I don't think a press release would quite be the mechanism for these, but
No, I just,
but
whatever you
yes,
get it
we are
packaged up.
considering that in everything.
Yeah,
now.
I'm on this thing, as you know, to let everybody know what we're doing. And this is great stuff too, and just as much as the other item, and I forgot to mention it earlier. Did you have a question?
I did. You made mention that maybe this was going to have an adverse effect on our visiting nurse program?
No.
Oh, no,
that
just
was
that
something totally
this,
different.
there's no
totally.
funding in this contract for that, for the Nurse Family Partnership
No,
Program.
totally different issue.
Okay, I just want to make sure that
This is
public
all good.
is aware
Yeah, this is all good, yeah.
that
That's why I
still
wanted to.
pushing forward.
And that's on the CONCON,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
This is the community
Put that at the top.
communication, the CONCON on the CONCON.
Put that at the top. Okay. Oh, brother. Okay, moving into item number 7, which is the Commissioner and County Manager's items. And I don't know if we need to go further with that, other than there'll be the calendar and whatever we decide to talk about. So the next item after that is today is a public hearing at 3 p.m. And it's the public hearing to consider rate increases for the Lake Lawrence Management District and Long Lake Management District and Lake Lawrence Management District, 2 of them.
Yeah, you will hear testimony this afternoon about this proposal to increase 3% per year in 2019 and 2020 for both the Long Lake Management District as well as the Lawrence Lake Management District. I would like to suggest modifying the action. It will be just to close the public hearing because you may not be taking an action on passing the ordinance at this point, since you will be considering all the ordinances as part of the budget later in the year when you take broader action and fees and charges and everything else.
Go ahead.
I'd just like some clarification. So we're going to have a public hearing to close the public hearing.
Well, usually the motion is through the motions you open the public hearing
This is
and
two
then you
step
formally
process.
close the public hearing.
So we're not taking testimony today, but we're going to go into session.
You're
do.
you're
Oh, we
taking
are.
testimony.
Yeah.
You're taking testimony.
definitely
today.
taking
That's
testimony.
the purpose
Anybody
of the public
wants.
hearing.
Okay.
You won't take action on the fee until the
The
budget.
budget process.
Right. There's a-
Right. This is,
and,
any change in revenue
Okay.
is required to be part of the November revenue package.
There's a deliberate delay in order to catch up with the budget process.
Yeah, just
on the
that
fee.
bureauctic process.
No,
I'm
it's
just-
not bureaucratic. It's
So it's
procedural.
just part of the process.
This is procedural.
It's just
Yes,
part
it's
of the
not
process,
bureaucratic.
and
Okay.
when you consider approving the budget, hopefully in December,
No, I wouldn't want it.
it will be a stack of many ordinances and resolutions.
standard practice.
And this is one of them.
This is nothing out of the ordinary.
And I think the intent is when you make decisions on a budgetary item, I think the intent of the law is give you the opportunity to approve on a broad, consolidated approach, as opposed to piecemealing without having the impact, knowing the impacts of each one of those actions.
Thank you for that clarification.
All righty. So that concludes the agenda for the pre-agenda. I know that's weird, but that's the way it is. For 7 August, and we're going to move on to 14 August and go through that kind of quickly. We'll take a break right at 10 o'clock. So first off, on the 14th of August, call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. Ask Commissioner Hutchins to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Move to approve the agenda and any board meeting minutes that are from the 7th of August. We do have one presentation for that day. It's from Emergency Services. It's a proclamation of September 2018 as National Preparedness Month in Thurston County. Mr. Kirk Harding will be here to receive and make a presentation on that.
That's correct.
Any little additional comments or?
No, we have people coming for that, I believe, do we?
Yeah, Kurt will bring some stuff.
Okay, so we're prepared for the national preparedness.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, God. Okay, and then we have the next item, which is the opportunity for the public to address the board, which we don't know this far out what that would be. And then the other item is the county manager's item, and we'll wait to see what that's.
And I will follow up with a couple of updates after your executive session on this Thursday.
Sure. So that leads us into the next item, which is number 3, the consent items A through D. And the first one is 3A, which is a request for proposal in issuance awarding of contract for inmate employment services.
So if I may, Commissioner, before you get into the specifics of that, you will be also seeing 2 additional items for next week that will be an HR items. One is the revisions of the executive assistants to the elected officials and county manager. That will be an adjustment on their classification.
Oh, there's lots of discussion
And as well
on
as
that,
also, it will be another item related to your executive, the commissioner's executive aides.
So that would be a consent item?
Usually HR items are consent items.
Okay, we'll have to get with you offline because I have lots of questions about that.
Yeah. So I just want to make you aware that those items might be coming to your attention next week. They're not included in this.
But they're related to this. I'm asking.
No,
Are
no,
they
no, no,
related?
No. What I'm saying is that you're not seeing those on the
Okay.
agenda, but they're coming to be
Okay,
included
thank
on next week's agenda.
Before we even got into 3A, he's saying there's 2 more items that might be posted.
They will be coming.
Go ahead.
And it's possible that we'll have the sheriff's issue about that position on there as
I will
well,
include,
right?
yeah, correct. And we will include that item that you delayed from today to next week
Yes, okay.
on whatever action.
After you get more information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So let's go with 3A.
So the 3A
Since you-
is a request from the Sheriff's Office, from the Corrections Unit, to request issuing a request for proposal for inmate employment services. The current contract expires December 31st, 2018, and currently we have that contract with the Pacific Mountain Workforce Development Council.
Are we going to get a little information about what that's all about?
This is a consent item. Maybe after the issuance of the RFP, and they have an actual contract, they'll probably ask Chief Toma to come and give you additional information,
Thank you.
unless you want to have this at this point. Since that consent item,
Not for RFP.
there's no opportunity for the staff to give you that.
Perhaps later on,
Later.
Yep, that's fine.
Sure.
Yep.
when it's been awarded. All righty. Moving on to 3B, which is community planning and economic development. This is a final plat Oak Tree Division, I guess it's Division Number 2. Move to accept staffing for the final plat. Is that what this is?
Yeah, this is,
Oh, the Mylar.
for your consideration, is to approve final plat for Elk Tree Division 2.
No, it is Division.
And just to give you a little more perspective, this is the large Oak Tree Preserve development located off of Marvin Road, which includes the development of 258 acres. And the plan, the ultimate plan is to include 1,037 single-family lot units that includes tracts for habitat, woodland habitat preservation, and stormwater recreation open space. The Division 2 in this particular case, for your request, is for 125 lots out of the 1,037. And all the conditions have been met. Just to give you an indication, this particular development is vested under the 2009 development regulations. And if I may, this is the pivotal development in which concurrency has been affected and managed along the Marvin Road. And the model that we use, the traffic model that we use to determine the conditions in which the Oak Tree Preserve will have to meet in terms of contributions or any type of improvements are based on that model. And we also use the same model to manage the concurrency requirements that we have on this corridor, just to give you a global perspective of that.
Yeah, that's a question.
Okay, you said that the concurrency issue has been dealt with or is being dealt with. What about the left turn issue coming out of, there's a little senior park there.
On the west side of Marvin.
Yeah. But is it Laurel Oaks? That's right.
Oaks,
That,
yeah.
that has been an issue for those folks, and I'm wondering if we've finally addressed that prior to moving forward, or how that works, because those people are quite concerned that we pay attention to that problem they've got.
Absolutely. And so to give you additional information on the concurrency strategy that we have developed for the last, I believe, 4 years, includes improvements that we need to address. We're going to be bound to address those improvements and build those improvements starting in year 2020. And some of those improvements will address some of the specific nodes, including that intersection that you're talking about. And I think the staff is already, from Public Works, already have plans as to how we're going to be addressing those. If you like, we can probably schedule a briefing specifically to walk you through some of the specific improvements on the Marvin Road corridor, so you have an understanding as to what type of improvements, including this intersection, that we're planning to do.
I think he still has another question.
Yeah, well, no, just during that process, do we have a liaison person, maybe within Laurel Oaks, that would be in attendance to something like that, or have input to something like that, so we take their concerns into consideration?
I believe the staff has held some public hearings related to the proposed improvements, and citizens have been invited to participate on that. But if you like to invite any particular citizens to the briefing the Public Works will give to you, certainly we can approach that one.
I don't know anybody particularly. I just know that it's a concern out there, and I'd like to have them at least be made aware of it.
And that's one concern among many along the corridor. Mm-hmm. And certainly some of the improvements planned will be addressing those concerns, I believe.
Did you say concurrency is being discussed and dealt with, or is done?
No, because concurrency is related to a level of service. And the level of service under GMA is whether you as a legislative authority determine how much congestion you would like to accept in any particular roadway. So this particular road has already exceeded the capacity based on the two-lane road that we have in there. So as a result, there is really is three options you as a commission have to address concurrency. One is not to accept any additional congestion. That means put a moratorium on development. Secondly, you can raise the level of, reduce the level of services. As a result, you will accept additional congestion. And third is the plan that we have in place to start having a plan to have a cooperated approach with the developers. They will pay a fair share for their impacts, and we as a result will be building improvements to address concurrency.
All right.
And that is a timeline of 6 years when we have to implement those improvements.
And does that, bless you, does that involve Lacey at this point?
It is a coordinating effort in Lacey because some of the developments that are occurring within the city of Lacey have impacts, traffic impacts on this corridor, and as a result, they need to participate on the concurrency model.
No, thank you.
All right. Anything else on 3B?
No.
Okay.
Not at this time.
No. Okay, let's go to 3C.
So just to conclude, the department will come back and give you a specific briefing on the improvements on Marbury Road.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
3C is the Tumwater Sap Rhode Island annexation.
Yeah, this is an item for you to consider. Later on the agenda, we have this specific item to discuss, the proposed annexation. As you may recall, there was an island proposed to be annexed by the city of Tumwater. And you asked staff to reach out to those individuals or citizens affected by this annexation, and that will be addressed later on your agenda today. So if you decide not to go with this item, we can certainly remove it, but just in case you decided to add it to the agenda.
Okay. Any questions about this so far? It's in the consent item for an annexation, though. Has that been the case in the past versus?
It has been in the case, unless because in this case, the proposal is not to oppose the annexation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Item 3D, Auditor's Office, which is Financial Services, which is listed on the website. So we'll move to, and I'm going to kind of ask, where are the department items?
There's not that many, I know it. So hopefully we can get additional department items in the next week.
Okay, we'll work through that. So commissioner's items is in the county manager's update.
Item number 4, Commissioner.
Yeah, mine says
You don't, I'm sorry, you have an old agenda. We added item number 4, which is the
that's what I'm asking.
The 5-year homeless housing plan. It is included on your agenda. I'm sorry.
No, it's not.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not.
I'm sorry. We'll give you the old agenda.
There we go. Now it is.
Apologize.
That's all right. No apology needed. We are there. Now we're good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We are corrected now. That's what I was curious about.
Oh, that's what you, okay. I got it now.
Where they at?
Got it. I got it. I thought you were looking for additional items.
No.
Okay.
We didn't have the same number 4 that you had.
No, it is number 4.
You were just wondering if we were paying attention.
That's
for
well,
sure.
you know.
Okay, so
Yes.
item number 4. Item number 4 is from the Public Health and Social Services, which is the title is the 5-year homeless housing plan. And so I think I'll just go ahead and say it for the viewing audience, from 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock
Next
on the
Tuesday morning.
14th. We'll have a roundtable discussion to finalize it, and then if there are no major concerns, move to adopt it in this motion here. So is that all right?
Hey.
So-
Later.
Any comments, questions? You should know that everything in that document that you see is going to change here shortly in the next year or two but we got to get it approved in some fashion in order to move on with some other things that'll be explained on the 14th of August.
Okay.
So it's a living document, like
Okay.
crazy, because things are moving at a fast pace. And we do have one correction. In the description, there is no such thing as housing. We want housing plan. Although I love hoisin sauce.
The hoisin sauce,
Yeah,
yeah, I
that's
love
great.
that stuff.
We got a hoisin plan and a
Spelled
hoisin sauce.
differently, too.
We're full of it.
Good eye, Chair.
You bet. No, good eye, left vice chair. Okay.
Thank you for the eagle eye.
Yeah, yeah. And if there's any other department items, we can throw on there.
Yeah,
We need
yeah.
that.
So I apologize for.
I say that because I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, Romero, and anybody else, we do not have a BoCC the following week, or probably the following week after
Yeah,
that.
there's after the 14th
Right.
of August, the following 2
So-
weeks, I believe the commissions have other matters to attend, and it will not be available to have a.
So whatever we can get
consecutive.
on this one, because it'll almost be September for the next one.
Actually, the next one will be September 4th,
Yeah.
which is after the
Labor
Labor
Day.
Day holiday. And traditionally, you don't have a board meeting after the holiday, but in this case,
You
we
need
ought
to.
to have one.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we're working on that.
Okay, so do we just need to set a date to do a pre-agenda then?
Yep.
Before that? Okay. What's wrong?
Nothing.
I'd be sorry. Just because you said hoisin?
That's part of the commitments that you have outside of the
Yeah.
of your role.
Sure. All righty, then we have item number 5, which is the commissioners and county managers items. We'll go through that when it's time. And then at 3 o'clock on the 14th of August, we have a public hearing from the Public Health and Social Services. It's an ordinance to prohibit smoking, tobacco, vaping in Thurston County parks. And Kateri Wimsett will be here, and Shelley, and the PHSS.
They'll give you the opportunity to hear from the public to extend in prohibiting smoking, tobacco, vaping in Thurston County parks and properties. I would like to revise the action. The first action will be just to move to close the public hearing. Nothing else beyond that, and the rest will be what you would like to consider to approve at that time. This particular ordinance based on the testimony that you received from the public.
Any initial thoughts? No. And so there's two choices there. It's either move and close or to approve. Do you have any initial thoughts on the vaping in parks? Smoking?
No. Well, we
No
have to cover
initial.
that extensively, I think.
Okay, sure. Just wanted to make sure we have any final
Thank you.
other thoughts. Okay. So that takes us to the end of August 14th as far as an agenda. And we'll move into, it's 10 o'clock. I'm going to take a break for 10 to 12 minutes and come back to the Board of Health agenda. And we'll be back about 10 to 12 minutes. appointment scheduled for the Board of Health on August 14th, 2018, around 3:30 in the afternoon. And we'll call the meeting to order. And if there's any proclamations, we'll approve the agenda as presented. And then we'll move into proclamations and presentations. And for the 14th of August, we have a proclamation as to August 2018 Breastfeeding Month. And is Deb Ward going to be here?
Yes, Deb will be here.
And can you give us just a minute or two background on what this is as far as proclamation?
Yes, it's World Breastfeeding Month, so we want to raise awareness and promote that. It's also World Breastfeeding Week the week before, which is what we honored last year, I believe. Deb's going to do a presentation on the health benefits of breastfeeding, and also Deb is leaving us at PHSS, and she has accepted a position as a lactation consultant at Providence St. Peter's Hospital. This is going to be her last time with us, and I'd also, while it's not on the agenda, like to take that opportunity to be able to recognize her and give her something at the meeting.
Wow. Super duper. Any questions about the proclamation? Nope.
Yeah, not about the proclamation, but about the issue. Dr. Wood wrote an article that happened to be printed in the newspaper of record about that issue. Will she be here for that as well?
She will be here for the Board of Health meeting, yes.
Is it something she would speak to as well then, I would think? I don't know.
I don't think she's planning to speak on this particular item, but she perhaps will, yes, she perhaps will cover it in her report.
Okay, and are you going to mention the renovations going on at PHSS with the breastfeeding room?
I think as part of Deb's presentation, one of her last slides is around workplace benefits, and that's a time that she will mention it, and I'll reinforce that in my director's report as well.
We approved that. I mean, that's long gone, right? We approved that. The money should go ahead and do that.
The REAP money?
Upgrade the room.
No, we upgrade the room here in this building. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, is it this building, not your building?
That's right.
When are we doing that one?
But we,
I just put you right on the spot. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I saw that we were one that you considered in your allocation of funds to improve breastfeeding locations, and we do have a lactation room, although it is definitely, it could use some improvement. So we're going to be focusing on that.
So this was a test one we did here then,
to answer your question in terms of the budget, you have not specifically allocated any money to this particular effort.
A thought to.
You have on the list of of consideration.
Man, I was already flying the banner for it and such. Okay.
We're getting there. We're getting closer.
No other questions then. Thank you, Shelley.
Did you have any questions? No. Okay, sure. We're going to move on to the item number 3, which is the opportunity for the public to address the Board of Health. And just seeing if there's anything by chance that you know of now. Nope. Okay. Move on to item number 4, which is department items. This is a Thurston Thrives update on community schools efforts as part of the Education and Resilience Action Team strategy. And Liz, will we be able to do it? Sure.
Yes. Liz is here to answer any questions. She'll be supporting both the presentations. The focus really is on back to school. So back to school health, safety, immunizations, safe routes to school, and also the item before that, the Thurston Thrives, is a community schools update.
Okay. Any questions on? No. No. Be great to see it. Kids getting back to school. All right. Item number 5. So it's another back to school, prevention, health, and safety.
That's the item I was skipping ahead to. My apologies.
Okay.
So
is there there's 2 separate items, but same time?
Yes, kind of school and education is the theme of this month's Board of Health, but yes, the first item is Thurston Thrives presentation about the community schools. This item 5 is our back to school prevention, health, and safety focus.
So Liz will be presenting both items?
Yes, she will.
You may want to say that on the microphone.
Yes, I apologize. And Liz will be presenting, as well as Jennifer Johnson, our Education and Outreach Specialist.
Oh. Okay, any questions on 4 or 5?
Nope.
Nope. Moving along, item number 6 is the immunizations, and Dr. Wood will be doing this one? Or?
Yes, Dr. Wood will be doing a presentation on immunizations. I believe she was still getting her materials together, but generally promoting immunizations for children in preparation for school.
That'll be the focus for kids in returning to school.
Yes.
Still. Okay. Item number 7, Foundations of Public Health Services. You're doing it with Jamie Bowden.
Yes, I will be introducing Jamie. So Jamie is the Managing Director for WASALFO, Washington State Association of Local Public Health Officials. And she will be doing a presentation on foundational public health as we prepare for this upcoming legislative session. So the consolidated contract statement of work and amendment that you just made in the previous item included the second year of foundational public health services funding for this year. So for this next budget year, we'll be discussing fully funding foundational public health. So she has been briefing boards of health throughout the state.
Just in a snippet there, what is Foundations of Public Health in terms of that? Is that a program? Is it a project? Just kind of what does that mean when you say Foundation of Public Health?
Sure. Foundational public health services are those core services that local health jurisdictions must provide to keep the community safe and protected. They're unique. Only the government can provide them. They're essential, critical services. So things like communicable disease investigation, emergency preparedness, vital records, things like that. Our public health system has been inadequately supported and funded over the years, and so we're needing additional funding to be able to fulfill our duties to protect the public's health.
Perfect. That's why I wanted you to say it, because there's a legislative piece of this.
Yes.
Yes. And so are you, at the time, be able to talk at least a little bit about the legislative piece, where we're at or not at, across over on the Hill?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Good. All right. Anything else on number 7? Foundations of Public Health Services. No?
What's the acronym?
WASALFO.
Washington State Association of Local Public Health Officials.
Good enough.
We're one of them.
We're part of WASAC.
It is. Mm-hmm. All righty, and move on to number 8. The Board of Health members, one of us 3 or all 3, say something about the health of issues that we might be working with or on or hear from the public. And then we move into number 9, which is the Director's Report, and you'll be here for that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And number 10 is the Health Officer's Report, and Dr. Wood will be here for that.
Yes.
And then adjourn. Is there any topic, any item for the Board of Health that we missed thought of? Any PR, community engagement pieces that go along with any of this? We'll address it at that time, huh?
Yes, we will be promoting breastfeeding throughout the month of August, primarily using social media. And also the back to school efforts. We have some immunization clinics through MRC, so we'll be doing a lot of promotion on that as well.
All righty. Anything else from anybody? No. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so on the pre-agenda, that concludes the third item, which is the draft agenda for the Board of Health. We move into proclamations and awards. Are there any proclamations and awards we need to discuss?
Other than the one that we're having today, Farmers Market, that is it. My next proclamations won't be until September.
Okay, great. There's nothing for the briefing, public hearing, decisions pending, or legislative update. We'll do a quick PIO check-in and then commissioners check-in. Are you running out? Oh, he's coming out. Oh, he's out of mic. You can buy another mic.
Or we can do it from there.
Yes.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Yeah.
Good morning.
So I wanted to provide a quick update on where we are at with the Thurston Community Media, Thurston County Connection episodes. Commissioner Blake's episode was released August 1st. Right now it has 24 views on Facebook and 553 views on, 553 views on Facebook, 24 views on YouTube. So it's performing well. For Commissioner Hutchins' Parks and Trails episode, I will be getting a final review draft of that this afternoon. I got a review of it last week. I provided some edits for it. They've made those edits, and I'll take another look at it this afternoon, and then also provide an opportunity for you to see it. And that will go out on August 15th.
August 15, okay. Thank you.
And then last Friday, I attended the opioid summit, captured some imagery there, shared that on social media, and I'll be working on a news release this week for that as well. And then fair coverage last week. We had a lot of hits on social media for that. Our pictures performed very well. And then the Pancake Breakfast had a great turnout. I believe we had 315 people that attended. So thank you to the community for that. And then also the building code development news release, pending approval by the board, will be going out this afternoon.
Regarding the count 315 that attended the breakfast, was that that young lady Ellen? Did she do the official counting, or do we have somebody else doing counting?
She's
okay, so it's accurate. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I have.
It's accurate.
Those are the big things I'm working on right now. But if you guys have any specific questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Nope.
Not at this moment for me. Normally I do.
We're going to talk about the fact we're going to do a little more video type stuff, or is that something you take up with folks?
I'll coordinate with the PIOs, and well, thank you. And Commissioner Hutchins and Commissioner Edwards attended the opioid summit last Friday,
well.
and Commissioner Blake were as well in the afternoon.
And you did too.
And I think it was good observation by Commissioner Edwards that perhaps we may want to start taping some of those big events. Pieces of that presentation would make it available.
That we had on the opioid.
Because for instance, the presentation that the main speaker had had a lot of good information. And maybe we can probably start have clips of that presentation maybe uploaded on that website. Great suggestions. I will follow up with the PIOs.
This is what I'm after. Yeah, we're all after. Yeah.
And we'll go from there.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Very good summit. Did you get your questions answered?
I did.
Good.
All right. Thank you, PIO.
Thank you.
Okay, we're at Commissioners check-in, and let's see, there's Josh is here, Shelley left, is here, is this intercity transit, Lake Clear? It's mostly CPED, so is there any one particular that's more important than the other? If not, we'll just start at the top and go with Tumwater annexation, SAP Road. I thought we already, can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, and sorry. You reviewed this item a couple of weeks ago. This is a proposed annexation by the city of Tumwater. And your packet is maps associated with this particular proposal, which is an island, as we consider an island. And the city of Tumwater has been, in the last couple of proposed annexations, have been addressing the islands there within the incorporated areas of the city. So this particular proposed annexation includes 41 acres. When you heard this proposal a couple of weeks ago, you asked the staff to go back and reach out to those citizens who might be affected by this proposal and get some perspective back to you as to what they have heard. So I will ask probably Robert to address that question that you had. And again, I may remind you, you do have an action next week related to this item if you decide to do so.
Look, Commissioners, we have Robert Smith as our senior planner here that had a chance to reach out to the citizens, but I wanted to make sure that we were continuing to state clearly that it's our role here as staff to make sure that the information that's provided is answering the questions that you've asked directly, and that staff is trying to be responsive. So if you're ready to proceed, Robert.
Do you have a map?
is attached on your packet,
Okay, I got it. I'll find it.
and it looks like
Okay. I think I already looked at it once and didn't have an issue. Go ahead. Go ahead, Robert.
Okay.
were you able to find it? It will be on the second item.
Oh my God, I got it. Let me go through my mound.
I think this is a, Commissioner, let's reference this now.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you got it. That one. That one.
I'm glad you you got better eyes than me, man. All right.
The maps are in the back.
I see it. I see it. Go ahead. I'm getting it.
Okay, there are 9 total properties, parcels, that are included in the proposed
Oh,
annexation.
I remember this. Okay.
So 3 of the lots, which lie south of Sap Road, which bisects through the northern portion of the annexation area, the 3 on the west, 2 Eccles and a Decker, they had all 3 signed waivers of protest against annexation as a condition of getting city of Tumwater water. So they signed a document saying they could not protest. And so they were, I guess, agreeing to annexation. One person attended the public hearing at the Tumwater Council meeting, and it was the person, Mr. Worth, on this little parcel in the northeast corner, and he is opposed. He likes, I guess, the rural area and likes the fact that the county does not prohibit fireworks, whereas Tumwater does. So he likes that. I called and spoke with the owner of the large parcel here, 10-acre parcel, Ms. Peterson. She is opposed. She just likes the rural nature, doesn't want increased regulations that she thinks may come with city limits. She is also the representative of the trust next door, the Shattuck Trust. That's her mother's property. So her mother feels the same way that she does.
So 3 people.
So opposed.
4 people.
Then there are 3 parcels on the north side of Sap Road, and the current city boundary actually bisects those parcels. So the majority of those 3 parcels, Shattuck, Huang, and Surrey, the majority of the parcels are actually within the city of Tumwater currently. Just the southern portion that front on Sap Road are in the county. Patricia Shattuck, the owner of the property, actually just died in June. And so actually she is the aunt of Miss Peterson across the street. Miss Peterson thinks that her cousins would not object to the annexation because most of the parcel is currently in the city of Tumwater, just a small portion. And I was not able to get in touch with the other 2. We could not get a phone number for one, and I got a phone number for the other, but it didn't work. I tried several times. But again, most of those parcels are in the city currently. The homes that are on those parcels are in the city. So we have 3 property owners who are against. Well, currently the city of Tumwater Water serves that area.
The city of Tumwater provides the water now?
Well, they have water lines in the right of way.
In the island area.
Yes.
Okay, but did all these other folks, even including the ones that are opposed to it, they signed that letter waiving?
Waiving the right to protest it.
Waiving the right to protest?
Yeah.
And how long ago was that, do you know?
Hold on a second. Shattuck and Peterson, they signed it.
No, they were not.
No,
It was
just the corner.
the 2 Eccles and Decker, and I don't know when it was. There was a home actually just recently built on one of the Eccles property. The other homes were there, had been there for some time.
Okay.
You had a question?
Yeah. So the 3 that signed saying they couldn't protest, were they blackmailed by the city of Tumwater that they had to sign to get a service? Is that what happened?
Yeah, that will be a very difficult question to answer, Commissioner.
Well, I don't mind telling it kind of blunt. I don't know what the deal is.
But I don't know how staff can answer that question.
Well, then maybe
How did it come about?
Yeah, I want to know how that came about, because if they really don't want to do it, but they aren't allowed to say they don't want to do it. I hate to stifle the public anytime they get a chance to tell the truth.
But I would assume they probably, those who signed the waiver, they have the same opportunity for those who didn't. All those individuals were given the opportunity to sign the waiver or not.
Yeah.
And some did and some didn't. So.
Well, you know, I'm not a fan of big government taking advantage of citizens, and I just want to know the answer.
Well, you're just looking for background right now, right?
I am looking for background.
Okay, well, I don't know about
to see if
blackmail
they
or
felt
whatever.
they had to do something or something.
It might have
I
been
don't know the answer to that.
Well, it could have been a legitimate item at the same time. So.
It could have been, but I'd sure like to know, even though they're not supposed to put a complaint in, I'd still like to know what they have to say about this.
So do you have any additional information on that?
Well, just on that, I believe it is a condition to get city utilities. If you're not within the city limits and you want city utilities, sewer or water,
right.
A condition is to sign that waiver.
Do these other folks that are objecting to it, do they have city water or services, or I guess they wouldn't have city services?
Who is these other folks?
I don't know. There's
Shattuck,
yes,
Pedersen, and Worth.
Yeah. And I don't know
Worth
what their hookups are. They're two very large properties that very well could be on individual wells and perhaps not hooked up to city water.
I guess I feel I need more information to make a decision on this myself.
Well, I do too, but I don't know if but let's see what do you have?
Yeah, I just wanted, I would like to know when they signed the letter, how many were offered the letter. Do we have 3 that are opposed and the others are unopposed?
We haven't touched some of them also.
Yeah.
Not contacted. So.
Yeah, we haven't, I just need some more information. Because it is an island, and I'm okay with getting rid of an island.
Yeah, me too.
Generally, I'm in favor
okay
of
with
getting
that.
rid of an island to a municipality.
So
And
there's-
I won't jump to a conclusion that someone's been swindled or whatever. I'm not gonna, I just want to find out more information about it. About why, what their motive was.
Okay, so it's not us pushing back, but we need more information. I'm gonna tell you that right now because I got questions too. Go ahead.
I'm just curious, usually when a question like this is before you, there's a certain amount of time you have
To tell the BRB.
respond to it. Are we on a timeline?
August 20th is when need to respond.
So no, August 14th.
So that's what the item for your consideration is for next week, August 14th.
Mm-hmm.
And
So it can't go
so
past
the step is, whether you agree or not, if you disagree, I think the steps is for you to send this to the Boundary Review Board. That's the next step.
Well, yeah.
So you're not here in the position to approve or not an annexation.
No.
This
Or
is
hold a public hearing.
The process is at this point whether you like to waive the protest or you would like to say you're opposed to that, and that goes to the request in the Boundary Review Board to hold a public hearing. And the Boundary Review Board will determine ultimately the gist of the annexation. So I just want to make sure that you as a commissioners do not approve or disapprove this annexation.
But we are going to recommend something.
Yeah,
it
and
sounds
whether
like.
the options that you have is not to protest, which is you agreeing with the annexation,
Okay.
or you would like to say, I'd like to send this to the Boundary Review Board for further analysis.
Sure.
I almost think that shy of the information that I need, I'm inclined to send it to the Boundary Review Board or something, if that's what it takes.
Well,
'cause-
let's wait till August 14th. Let's see if we can get a little bit more
So
information.
this item
Okay,
is
if
for you.
Robert comes up with more.
Yeah, next week is for your consideration this item,
you can
and
make
that
that
item can be modified however the board wants to.
Okay. On those individuals that.
Which ones?
No.
And I believe the information that you need, if I may, is when the waiver was signed by those individuals and the process in which that information was presented to them. Is that correct?
Well, I don't want them stifled in giving their point of view. I mean, it might be a legal issue that they can't contest something, but when asked a question by a planner from Thurston County, I would surely hope they would be able to say, well, no, I had to do that because my mom was building a house and there was no other way we could do it, and that's the way they handled it. And no, I don't want this annexation or whatever. I just want to hear from people unrestricted as do they want this or don't you want it? And are you telling me you can't ask that question? Is there an issue here that you can't ask these people, okay, I know you signed this, but do you want it or don't you want it?
We can ask the question, but they signed a waiver that said that they wouldn't protest it.
Yeah, well.
And we did ask the
Get
question.
me a phone number and I'll talk to them then. I mean, I'm not gonna abide by some bullying by government. I'm not gonna go along with that. So
Are you getting indications of bullying? You've said it a few times, blackmail, bullying.
Yep, I do not like the fact oftentimes that citizens are pushed into situations that they sometimes feel they have to take that action, and really they didn't want to do that.
Well, I agree with that, but are you getting indication that's the case here?
I don't know that before I make a decision, I'd like to know the answer to that. I'd like to know what the
So
citizens
you don't have
feel.
indications that's here, that applies to this case?
No, I do not.
Okay.
So you need more information.
I need more information.
All right, well, that's fair enough. That's good.
Okay, so staff will attempt to get the information that you're looking for next Tuesday, and I'll bring this item again next Tuesday morning.
Sure, and just one more thing on the ones that we're not able to contact. I know you've made attempts, but that's really where I'm at in helping me make a decision whether to send it to the boundary BRB or not. So if you can get more of that, I know.
So you want us to try again the one that doesn't have a number and the one that couldn't connect?
Well,
try to find more contact information for them.
I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know anything.
because that's two
mining.
more pieces of the property that kind of tell a story. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah.
So try and dig deeper on those two.
Send pigeons, smoke signals, whatever it takes.
Well, I'm like Hutch. I'm generally in favor of getting rid of these
Islands.
checkerboard
Sure.
island
We all
things,
are.
but
Yeah.
I certainly don't want, if there's some reason that somebody's hanging out there for whatever reason, and I don't know the reason. So I don't want to make a decision without having more information.
Yeah, and a letter signed 6 months ago, 5 years ago, or 30 years ago is important to
Okay,
me.
now you want to recap? Just to make sure we got what we got.
Hopefully I can recap it.
Yeah.
So what I understand is this item needs to be, you need to make a decision by August 20th. That is why you have it in your draft agenda for next Tuesday, the 14th. And you have asked staff to do two things: reaching out to those individuals who have signed the waiver to determine when they sign it, and perhaps get information as to the conditions in which they signed it. And also do an additional effort for those individuals who have not been able to be contacted. And the staff will come back next Tuesday, the 17th, and give you additional feedback, the 14th, I'm sorry, and give you additional feedback of their efforts, and then at that point you will decide how you like to proceed.
Sure.
And Josh, to help where my frame of reference is coming from, where I live, we did the same thing with the City of Olympia, but as a group of homeowners, we offered that to the City of Olympia. We will not fight annexation to get water. So we got water. It was completely flip-flop. They didn't request it or hammer us or pressure us. We requested it.
Oh,
so that might be the case here. I just don't know.
Citizen initiated?
Citizen initiated, yeah.
Well, that's the question.
Thank you.
I would take a different approach to it. All right. Any questions, comments?
No.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
We're going to move to item number 2, TRPC RCO fiscal agent letter.
Yeah, this is a follow-up on the decision that you made to request the TRPC be the fiscal agent for the RCO grant related to the Water at 13, the Deschutes watershed. As a matter of background, the Thurston Conservation District was the agency who was the fiscal agent for those grants, the RCO grants. And the fiscal agent is just a pass-through money. They don't receive, I think it was $600,000, I believe, on the line. They don't.
800.
800, thank you. So the $800,000 is not a direct allocation to, at that time, the Thurston Conservation District. Is this really related to the projects the WIRA 13 selects and determines what needs to be done? They apply for the RCO grant, and the RCO grant accepts those projects, and the Thurston Conservation District, in this case, serves as the fiscal agent, because the Water 13 is not a body who can serve those purposes. So there was an effort for the RCO to have that will be the Recreation and Conservation Office from the state, for the Thurston Conservation District to continue to be the fiscal agent. And the Board of Supervisors failed to take an action on this particular matter. And at this point, there is not a fiscal agent who can take this responsibility. You received public testimony that perhaps the county should take the fiscal responsibility, the fiscal agent responsibility for this grant. My suggestion to you was perhaps not, because it may create a conflict of interest for the county. And as a result of that conversation, also the Thurston Regional Planning Council, which is an independent body who does not benefit from this particular grant, may be the best suited organization to serve as the fiscal agent. That conversation occurred a couple of weeks ago. You agree on that approach, and attached to you is the letter for you to sign. And if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Any questions or comments? Yeah.
Last week, we had a citizen come in and talk during the 3-minute presentation. He was a retired game officer, biologist. I can't really tell you his complete background, but I know he was an active game officer years ago. He made an allegation that salmon were not being allowed above the Deschutes Falls maybe this year. I don't know exactly. He said he's going to come back with more information. So I'm concerned that if things aren't being, if the salmon aren't going to be allowed to spawn in the Deschutes River, and the Wyra 13 is all about the Deschutes River, where that money might be going and what the intent of the Washington Fish and Wildlife folks are when it comes to the salmon recovery on the Deschutes River. Now, I know we're involved in a issue, I think with our stormwater folks somehow, and I don't know if you've gotten to the bottom of that yet or not, but that also is salmon enhancement. Further up the river, up off of the Smith farm, I think it is, there's quite an investment going in there on salmon information, or salmon recovery issues. If in fact we move forward with this and give this to, if we were to turn it over or recommend TRPCs to be the fiscal agent on this, I'd like to have some recognition in this letter of what Thurston County is doing and started, I guess, in 2016 and 17 and on up, where we're doing the covert replacement process to enhance salmon recovery, so that we're doing things together. I don't know how to word that, but I'd like to have this letter reflect that we would like to see some coordination and cooperation to match what we are spending millions of REIT dollars on salmon recovery issues. So that, in other words, we're not going out, going two different, oftentimes government doesn't know, one part of government doesn't know what the other part is doing. So I'm concerned that we put some kind of caveat in there that we're hoping that this can mesh with what we're doing. And if in fact they're not allowing salmon to go up the Deschutes, if that's something new as brought to our attention by this retired game officer, I'd like to know about that too, because I know we've got covert replacement issues out of the REIT funds that are designated as priorities. And does that make good sense? So I'd like to know more about the whole salmon recovery process that the state has got going on. I mean, maybe there's a good explanation. I don't understand why that gentleman came here and said, we've got a major problem here, and you people need to know about it, referring to the county commission. Because he knew we were spending money on salmon.
So what would you like in the letter?
Well, I'm not sure I want to send the letter just yet. I'd like to hear from Washington State Fish and Wildlife, and that goes back to another issue that was on the last week while you were gone. I don't know if you've heard about it. Anyway, we don't need to hear much about enforcement. What we need to hear about is, I think, the biology and salmon recovery. And that's, I'd like to coordinate all of that activity. And if we do send this letter, at least have this letter include the history of what Thurston County is doing on salmon recovery, spending our own money.
Is this letter time sensitive in the sense of a deadline?
I'm not sure.
There is a concerted effort because the county is just one of the jurisdictions who's requesting it to TRPC. So is the other jurisdictions, include the city of Tumwater. City of Tumwater has already sent similar letter. Sure. And the tribe needs to also agree. When an F gets this approved by the RCO, then formally we need to enter into an interlocal agreement with TRPC and the other jurisdictions to attest to that fiscal agent. So this is just the first step and the request for TRPC to take the fiscal agent responsibilities. Whether it's a time sensitive, yes, it is in a way.
Can you elaborate on that? Like
yeah.
Tomorrow or a week or a month? I'm just curious.
I think the sooner the better. And I'm hesitating because it's not a deadline.
Sure, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just trying to figure out a date.
The urgency is right now there is not anybody who can probably use the $800,000 plus.
Okay, so the money's just sitting there doing nothing.
So that is really the issue.
And that's not the right way to do money.
Okay. And whether this letter can wait until we coordinate a briefing from Fish and Wildlife to discuss that's going to take time to organize a briefing with the Fish and Wildlife to address your questions that you may have in terms of what I call salmon management on the Deschutes River as a result of the public testimony that you received last week. That is going to take some time to get to the point of what you'd like to be. So I recommend for you not to tie those two or maybe have this letter wait until you have that briefing.
Any comment first?
Yep. I support TRPC. I support the letter. I wouldn't mind, as Commissioner Edwards said, I would think in the third paragraph at the end somewhere, put in there what the Thurston County Commission has done to enhance the salmon recovery.
We can certainly add that if you like.
And aside from adding that, I'm not going to wait for U.S. Fish. I have no interest. I have a big interest in what that accusation was, if that's fact or fiction, and what the strategy is. But I'm not willing to hold up this process for that.
So yeah, I can make some modifications to the letter.
Go talk to him.
Still probably keep it one page.
Hey, Doug, are you there?
Oh, he's okay with his thing muted.
Hey, you get his microphone.
And I'll just keep talking until he gets his microphone muted, so that any information that he might be sharing is or receiving is not given out inappropriately nationally or internationally.
It's good that he has his assistant next to him.
There we go. You tackled him right at the knees. Yay!
So what I'm hearing is let me add some additional information related to the fish passage program that we have in the county.
Not to speak for him, but to add on for my own piece is that I don't know if it'd be even appropriate to say that we will be discussing with not U.S. Fish and Wildlife, State Fish and Wildlife about other concerns. I just don't want to leave it closed, but to let them know that there are further discussions that might occur.
I think
just a one-liner in there and saying that, or a two-liner in there. In addition to, you're looking at me like, so I don't know if it's appropriate for this letter, but in some correspondence or another, either this letter or an email that to address his concern is the same one I have. I just don't think it belongs totally in here, but maybe just to be able to, I'll use the word hint or just a gesture that there are other issues to be discussed related to this. But I don't want to get bogged down either, because I'm taking the middle of the road.
Okay, so let me develop some language.
You see what I'm saying? I'm
back.
trying to say, just give an announcement that in there that there's some other additional concerning factors that go along with this that we'd like to talk about. I guess that's what I'm asking.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's appropriate in this particular letter or email that. So.
This goes right to WIRA. This letter.
No, it's going to the RCO, to the state.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Or the
definitely,
RCO.
but definitely what Thurston County's
RCO.
doing, obviously, that's easy. So, is that all right? I know.
your
You're looking at me
letter.
like you had
It's
additional
your
comment.
letter.
I know, but you were looking at me like you had an additional comment.
This
so.
letter is all about who to assign as a fiscal agent for grants from the RCO.
Right.
And you appear to be wanting to fold in some concerns about the
I
Washington
do,
State
and
Fish and Wildlife.
I'm kind of perplexed as to whether to do it in this particular letter or an additional follow-up of some sort to be able to say that we have something on our mind that we'd like to talk about,
Me,
but not to hold up this.
That would be a separate.
I do too. I
thing.
just.
No,
I just
okay,
didn't-
I want to argue that one.
Right.
I was waiting for you to talk so I can call you on it.
I feel, yeah, I feel that anytime we can get the word out on what we're doing, you'd be surprised how many outfits have no idea.
Yeah.
There hasn't been much coverage about what we're doing on this issue. And anytime we can let the public know through another entity, another state agency, that, hey, we're out here on Front Street trying to do good things. And it really bugs me that we're talking about close to $1 million, and we're gonna make a snap decision without all the facts again. And that bugs me to no end, that we are that cavalier with the taxpayers' money. It just bugs me. I know it's not taxpayer money from maybe Thurston County right here, but we're all paying into this system that helps us do projects, and it bugs me to no end that we don't have coordination at all times, at all levels, when it comes to saving tax dollars and accomplishing goals. That we're, obviously, I think we're all headed in that direction, but it doesn't hurt to let them know, look, we're already doing this. Possibly, as you make this award, we want you to know that we could coordinate that activity with our activity and get more done. On the other hand, when we've got a game agent that comes in here and says something is amiss, and we're just going to go ahead and disregard that without finding out, I think that's a travesty of the taxpayers' money being spent. So
With all due respect, we're not disregarding the public testimony. And I was asking the commissioners to give us some time to get to the bottom of that testimony to determine whether it's accurate information or not. It's going to take some time to get to the point. I'm not disregarding any public testimony that has been provided to you. As I stated earlier, it's going to take some time to get to the bottom whether that is accurate information that has been presented to you.
yes.
So, and the question is, at this point, is how this letter relates to that issue, which at this point, we don't have all that information, whether it's accurate or not. Is the board wants to wait until all that information pans out before you sign this letter?
Well, I would certainly like to at least wait a week before we send this, and I can't imagine it's that time.
I don't think a week is going to. All due respect, I don't think a week stuff is going to have enough time to get to the bottom of those comments.
Oh, no. But even before we send this letter in, but like these other commissioners, I would like to have the fact.
He wants to do some own personal research.
I want to do a little more research on it, but I definitely want something added here to talk about what this board is doing on salmon enhancement it's above and beyond what anybody in the state is doing.
So there's a little bit different. So what I'm
Holds
hearing,
at 14 August.
so what I'm hearing is you want me to add a paragraph describing the program that we have in place in fishberry removal.
Yes,
Is
That's
that
easy, yeah.
that's the easy part.
I'll drop something for your consideration and circulate the letter.
To see for 14 August.
There you go. Yeah, that'll give us a week to.
We got to clean it up by 14 August anyway, so it doesn't matter. He has it.
Yeah, we had testimony from a state fish retired employee.
Retired officer.
He says something fishy's going on here, right? But if we had someone come in and testify, everything is just fine with what we're doing, I would probably question that. But I don't want either one of those, pro or con, to influence my wanting to move ahead with supporting TRPC as being the fiscal agent. And I don't want to be accused of being cavalier with the taxpayers' dollars, because we've been talking about this for quite some time, and I'm ready to move on and have an independent agency be the fiscal agent for that $830,000. And I know you're not accusing me of being cavalier, and I know
not at all.
You're not painting that, but I just don't want the public, you don't want to be cavalier. Well, it doesn't mean I am. I don't think I'm being cavalier. Being very cautious, especially in supporting TRPC, in being the fiscal agent, get us out of that mix.
Thank you. And that was the follow-up to the decision the board made 2 weeks ago in having TRPC be the fiscal agent.
Yeah.
So I will add the additional language and circulate for your consideration.
Thank you very much.
All righty. That's what it's all about. Let's move on to the next item is Inner City Transit Support Letter.
Yeah, this is a support letter for Inner City Transit. They're in the process of securing a FTA grant. That was the Federal Transit Administration grant, and this related to the Dial-a-Lift program, and they have reached out to the commissioners to see if you would like to support this this grant to TRPC. This is for your consideration.
I support it, but I want to hear from you.
Yeah, I do
on the
too.
board.
You're on the board, so I want to know what we're doing here.
Oh, I 100% support it. Yeah, Dial-a-Lift is incredibly great for many different lifestyles out there, be it disability, elderly, work, employment related. Just for me, it's hands down, but I'm intimately involved with it, and so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I do completely support it, and I've talked with a lot of people about it, and I've been reading about it, so I support it.
Okay.
I just wanted to hear from you as well,
Yeah,
so
but-
I'm good.
You're on the commissioner on the board.
You're our representative on that particular
Yeah,
board.
you won't go wrong with it. It's not a problem.
Okay.
So, I didn't know you had all the.
Wordsmithed it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. All right, next item is Lake Lawrence, no, not Lake Lawrence, Lake St. Clair.
So could I suggest talking about item number 5? I think that's going to be fairly quickly.
Sure, WSD. Go ahead. Work
Yeah,
session.
this is related to a briefing that you were scheduled to have with Chief Bear. That's Chief Administrative Officer
it.
with
Oh, yeah, we
Fish and
all did.
Wildlife, and there was not a nobody. It was a miscommunication apparently.
That's kind of like life.
And they wanted to give you a briefing on the enforcement efforts related to fish and wildlife. This item, I believe you wanted to follow up on that. Just to give you a little history, I was approached by, I believe his assistant to see if they want to come and brief you on that. I honor that request.
Okay.
They missed the opportunity, and it will be up to you if you want me to go ahead and try to reach out and schedule it again.
I'm curious about what's the need. I want them to communicate with our law enforcement people, the county sheriff.
Attaches for your considerations the PowerPoint that we're planning
Yeah, I
to
read
walk
that.
you
I
through.
looked at that. Yep.
So I don't think it was more informational briefing. They're actually requesting anything from the county. That's my understanding.
I'm sorry, and I read it, and I went through the PowerPoint, and I forwarded it to Tim Braniff, the undersheriff, and the sheriff for their information. So I don't need any further information on it.
I'm good also. I don't need any information.
I was concerned when this came to our attention. I had asked, I mean, after they didn't show, I had time, you know. Okay. So I had asked the sheriff if they participate in any of the law enforcement meetings that he conducts. I know he has a monthly meeting that all the different law enforcement agencies participate, Department of Corrections, multiple counties, state patrol, municipalities, and they don't participate in that particular meeting. And I really think they should. So I want to get that message back to them that I don't think we're the body that needs to hear from them. If we're going to talk about law enforcement issues, because that's the law enforcement end of Fish and Wildlife, I need to talk to the biologist. I want to spend some time with them because I'm wondering what's going on this whole salmon enhancement. But I don't think I need to know anything. I mean, I pretty much know what these folks do.
Okay, so fair enough.
But I would like to let them know that if they're looking to reach out to our community, they're looking in the wrong place, I believe. I think they should be talking to the sheriff.
Yeah, and also
coordinating with the law enforcement officers, chiefs of police.
If the law enforcement group that you stated meet on a monthly basis, maybe that group can extend an invitation to him to participate.
Well, it's been a standing. I put that thing together 30-some years ago.
Oh, so it's been so then.
And it's still going on, and it bugs me that they don't participate.
Well, so can force them to participate.
and the sheriff, all they have to do is call the sheriff.
Yeah. Okay.
Let him coordinate that.
Okay.
You don't need more to do.
So we don't need it. Remember, we don't need it here. Wherever else it goes.
I think I understand the direction. Thank you.
Okay. And so Lake St. Clair now, and then I have one advisory board item I want to make sure we address. Go ahead and sign it.
Yeah, I'm going to sign it, but has somebody already looked this over?
No. Oh, I'm sorry, never mind.
That's the letter of support.
That's the
Yeah.
IT letter.
Yep. I mean, as far as
Content and spelling and all
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good enough.
It's been
The
edited.
lawyer did. Their lawyer did.
Same
Thank you.
question I asked you.
Tennessee Transit lawyer did.
Yeah.
Okay. So Lake St. Clair.
Yeah. So, so let me begin by stating the issue of the water level is just one item of this very complicated matter.
69.5, 60.
Yeah, it's a very complicated matter related to Lake St. Clair. So attached to your packet is a little bit of history, and I think this is related to a public testimony you received last week requesting that you may want to lower the water level at Lake St. Clair. There's a little bit of history as to how the water level has been put in place, and everything started from 1999 to 2000. And back in 2013, through an ordinance, it states that there is a 5-mile-an-hour speed limit on the lake. And I think the north end is throughout the whole lake, and the south end includes a 200-foot buffer from shore, and that is related to avoiding the wake effect on the shoreline. This particular ordinance includes the 69.5, meaning if the water level of the lake drops below the 69.5, then there is no speed limit restrictions. Okay. Ryan is here to give you additional perspective on this, but again, it's a lot of information related to this lake, and the water level is very complex.
Is this decision day today?
Is
for
the
this?
speed
This
No.
is just
information?
Thank you,
No,
Lord.
no.
Okay.
And you requested, what is it that you need to do if you will to consider to change the water levels is certainly you need to draft a resolution, have a public hearing, and the whole process is if you like to entertain lowering the water levels. My humble recommendation will be to perhaps you don't take any action, because any action that you may take related to the water level may be construed as other issues related to this lake. Let me take you back. Early in the year, you received a request from Heather Burgess, who was representing some of the property owners. They were requesting the board to declare a state of emergency on this lake because of the water levels. And at that point, she was stating the water levels was close to 74 feet. You had an executive session with your prosecuting attorney where you consider this particular request. And I don't want to discuss the matters of that executive session, but attached to the packet is the response from Elizabeth Patridge to Mr. Burgess related to that particular request, which it didn't warrant to declare the state of emergency. So I'd just like to, bring that back to you. And I think the question was, what options do you have to change the water level? You do have the options to change the water level, and related to the speed limits, and it will be through an ordinance, which requires a public hearing, and so on and so forth. And I may also caution you, the speed limit on lakes are a very controversial issue. We have other lakes they perhaps are in the same situation in terms of the speed limit. So if you consider changing the speed limits or managing the speed limits on one lake, in this case, Lake St. Clair, you may also consider managing the other speed limits on other lakes, and that becomes a larger task. So that's all I have for you, and Ryan can give you additional details.
Hold up, I gotta get to the commissioner first.
This is probably for Ryan.
Well, let's see what your question is.
Okay, when we were asked back in May by the legal firm about something, and you said the level was about 74 feet?
At that time, she claimed that. It was April 17th.
Okay. What is the level?
I'm sorry, it was the level, it was 72.04. I misstated.
Okay. What is the level today?
Today?
Yep.
Or
well, I mean, I think they have
the most recent measurement.
The most recent measurement, yeah.
Ryan can speak to that, but I think it's an indication because we have been receiving a very dry summer, extremely dry summer. The perhaps is going to be dipping down below the 69.5 in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, we're anticipating it to drop below 69.5 mid next week.
Okay.
That's like forecasting weather, though. When was it? And I'm not saying you're wrong or attacking that, but to answer your question, to get to your question, when was it last measured? And what was that last measurement? Do we know?
It's measured twice a day currently, and I looked yesterday and we're between 2.5 and 3 inches over that 69.5.
So 69.8?
Yes.
Okay, my other question is,
72.
well, I actually have two things to bring up maybe. One of them is the level, but the other seems to be the type of boat that does the most damage. I would like to explore the ability to eliminate that boat from functioning on that lake, and that's a bladder boat.
And what is a bladder boat?
A bladder boat makes a great big wave, about 3 feet high, and the activity is like riding a surfboard in front of this as the boat goes along, and you ride the surfboard in front.
So do you want to do that for every lake in the county?
Well, I don't think we have this problem for every lake, but I would contemplate doing it for every lake because I think it does environmental damage to all the lake shores.
Okay.
Probably. So I think we maybe need a little more information on that, but I'm specifically concerned about the damage that it might do out at Lake St. Clair. So that's one issue I'd like to look into. Could we do something like that? And the other issue is, when was the 69.5 put in place, and was that put in place because of some perceived emergency issue, and there was not the hearings and ordinance adjustments that went into
Commissioner,
that. I'm just curious about
no,
it.
if I can bring your attention to this document attached.
Yes, okay.
That gives you the history.
Okay,
Is
so it's in here,
attached to your documentation.
okay,
December 17th, 2012.
okay.
So that gives you there has been, ever since 1999, there has been a long-standing issue related to this lake. So that gives you the history of the different resolutions, and that takes you to the 2013 Resolution 14975, which establishes that the 69.5%, and also includes that restriction that if it goes below the 69.5, there will be no restrictions on the speed limit on the lake.
Okay.
There were public hearings. There were a few emergency measures, but there were public hearings held
Along the way.
before the permanent ordinance was put in
Okay,
place.
so it's permanently in place then
Yes.
now, legally and all that. Okay, but my question is that, okay, on number one, under 2012, Resolution 14732, emergency that demands immediate action to protect property, okay? But it doesn't say what they're trying to reduce it to. What was it? And then eventually it was put down to 69.5 during the year 2013, it looks like, through an ordinance.
Yes, I'm not.
If I recall, reading through all these resolutions, 69.5 has been consistent in all those resolutions through 2012, and then finally adopted formally in 13.
So even at 2012, under Resolution 14732, it was at
The elevation was established at 69.5.
69.5 back then. Is that right?
I believe that
Yes.
is accurate.
Yes, that's on the next page of your,
Okay,
if you
and
turn the
then,
page, there's more information.
was it a different level prior to 2012? I guess that's my question. Was there some ordinance in place prior to 2012?
No, nothing was done prior to that.
So it has always been 69.5
Well,
since an ordinance was put in
yeah,
place
yeah.
in 2012? Because that, apparently there was some allegation by the public that that was an arbitrary number, it was lowered from or raised from prior to that. I'm just trying to clarify that.
And just to be clear, Commissioners, none of the current water resources staff that we currently have worked on this issue directly. So we've worked to piece all the information that we could find together into these documents.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have here is what we know.
Okay, so no other documents talked about a higher water level between 1999 and 2012. There wasn't an adjustment that we can find.
No, and through the public testimony, some property owners, perhaps they were suggesting a different water levels.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to get at.
And it's included in your packet, a little
Okay.
bit of that testimony.
Okay.
For instance, back in May 8th, 2012, Mr. Grassi suggested to put a 68.4. But it was not yet really anything, as I may understand
And
it. it's just-
68.4 is a lower.
No, that was suggestion by the public
Okay,
testimony.
Yes,
okay.
that would have been even lower than
Yeah.
what the board said.
Okay, so I guess at this point, my concern.
I'm sorry,
Oh, go ahead.
and I believe the public testimony you received last week was suggesting that you to lower it.
Some were, some were not.
Yeah, some were, I think there was it was a contested issue.
Some were suggesting to eliminate it.
Yeah.
Some were
Yeah.
suggesting to make it higher, which would have,
Okay, I'm trying to reach a happy medium here to allow them to do what they want to do, but disallow the environment, the bulkheads, the docks, from being damaged by these bladder boats, because the bladder boats seem to be the big problem. And if we didn't have that.
He has a comment about that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I agree with you about reaching middle ground that appeases and makes everybody happy and saves the environment. in that microcosm of
Yeah.
environmental. It's the smallest of the 6 lakes where we allow higher speeds. And if, just want to be sure that number one, it's written in here as of this month that over 60 residents were contacted and provided comment and questions and such. And the vast majority of the consensus was they don't want any further boat restrictions. So if you're limiting bladder boats, that's going to allegedly upset most people who don't want any further boat restrictions. Hang on. And I want to understand it properly that if we lower the water level, that automatically triggers the speed limit? Or is it two separate actions?
Well, I think the intent of the establishing a water level is to establish a speed limit. Because if, and again, the current resolution that we have right now is if the water levels drops below the 69.5,
right,
there is no speed limit restrictions.
No speed limit.
Yeah, I think it's 45 miles an hour.
I don't know what.
I think.
Yeah.
But the 5-mile-an-hour speed limit is
invoked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I just want to go back to the very beginning. You don't want to, you want them to do what they want with their property and their lake. However, the majority of them, a majority of those that responded or participated don't want any further boat restrictions. That flies in the face of your wanting to have a boat restriction on bladder boats. Just a comment, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it was my understanding that the comments by this lake, I don't know if they don't have a lake management district yet, but I mean, they're working on a lake management district. One of the gentlemen that testified is the ramrod of that group. I don't know what to call him. He's not the president.
I think it's
yet.
ramrod, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so he made the statement in public testimony that he felt eliminating the bladder boat issue, eliminating those boats, would solve a big portion of the problem, and that everyone would agree with that. So it sounds like we have a conflict there about who would be giving up something, you know, for the benefit of everybody. I don't know the answer to that. I'd surely like to find out, because it sounds to me like if we got rid of the bladder boats that are doing, I'll just hang my hat on environmental damage. They wash the shorelines out, erode under the trees tip over, all that kind of stuff. When you've got a 3 or 4 foot, I don't know, I don't know anything about bladder boats. I'm just going by what I'm told, that it creates a very big wave, and that wave then crashes up on the beach.
It's also called ballast bags.
Is that what they're called? Ballast bags, okay.
and the sport is wakeboarding.
Is that what it is? Okay. Well, I think it's worth entertaining a restriction on those type of boats if they are doing more damage than everybody else.
So, so let me see if I understand what do you mean with entertaining? Because if the intent of the board is to proceed with putting a restriction of bladder boats on this and on the other lakes, it is a process. It is a public process that we need to go through for you to hear all the sides of the public testimony.
Oh, it's a process, trust me.
So, and that's the question that I asked, do you like to go through that process? Because I personally, with all due respect, I don't understand what entertaining is.
Well, I suppose it means start the process, but how do we do that? Do we start the process based on a citizen information and complaint coming to the county board, or do we start the process by a county commissioner responding to a citizen complaint?
No, I think the process starts by the board giving direction to staff.
Okay. I would certainly like to look into the fact, is it damaging to the environment and property by having bladder boats operate at whatever levels they do their thing? I don't know anything about them, so I can't speak to it.
Yeah, 3 minutes and I got to go into something else.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Robin.
I'm just curious if this would be an item that would need to go on the docket or not.
Well,
I don't know.
we need to look at lakes altogether.
That would be my suggestion. If
There's
you
a
like
lot
to
of lake issues.
entertain, I think maybe a comprehensive
Some of them are archaic.
approach
Some of
to
them are
all the
obsolete.
lake, how you manage lakes. And that by itself, I believe, needs to be put on the docket because the task is big.
It's big.
Yeah. And if you
It
like
is
to,
definitely a
suggestion,
2019
if you'd
item.
like to consider looking at all the lakes in terms of speeds and restrictions to boats and everything else, you may consider adding to the development code docket next year and just put it on the staff's radar to do.
Okay, I'm good with it, whatever the
It's a start,
process
it's a
is.
start, it's a
Yeah.
start. You gotta look at lots of different things at one time. I've been through this
Okay.
before. Go ahead.
Just as a final comment, Ryan, I didn't want to be dismissive. You were talking about it being forecasted that the lake will lower, and will you give me information on that real quick, because I didn't read it and finish.
It's anticipated that the lake will drop below the 69.5, allowing water skiing and other high-speed activities roughly the middle of next week.
And do you have any idea how long that will sustain itself? It's all up to the weather,
Yes.
weather pattern and such? Okay.
The longer we go without rain, the longer we'll be able to keep the lake open and hopefully have further receding water levels.
Okay, cool, thank you, sir.
That is cyclical. It begin in November, December. We'll start getting some
The other
public
side.
feedback as to the water levels.
We get in touch with
So-
Mother Nature.
Well, we're dealing with climate adaptation, aren't we now?
We got targets.
Yeah.
Advisory boards and commissions before the executive sessions, Commissioner?
Oh, yeah, I got one item I want to bring up, yeah. Sure.
I'll call up Anita, and then we go from there.
Thank you, gentlemen.
32 seconds.
And we are waiting for,
Labanita.
There's one item I want to seek to make a motion and approval on for Shannon Vernon.
Yeah.
okay, on that particular topic, I didn't know that was going to be on the agenda.
It's right here, it's right here, right here.
No, but on the, it wasn't on our agenda for today's, was it? Unless I got
For what, a decision?
a decision on that? Okay.
For her application to be approved to the Fair Board.
I had a visit with her
Me too.
yesterday, or Saturday. I also talked to the fair manager, Teresa. She's very aware of it. She asked, and she was going to get a hold of Teresa, that we give her a week to get this implemented into place. She wanted to do some massaging, if you will. I'm just trying to respect that request by the fair manager, because I've heard this issue. I don't know if you've heard this issue.
Yes, I did.
Okay, and it sounds like we should address it, but I just thought out of
Okay.
courtey,
We'll do it the 14th August then.
that's what I was wondering about. Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
So
then rush to
I,
failure.
with all due respect, I did not understand.
You didn't understand the thing about, okay.
You know, I didn't understand about the massaging, the weave, so
I believe a prior fair manager,
I may
Josh's position.
suggest for the benefit of the public to
Yeah, yeah,
clarify
yeah.
that comment.
Okay,
Sure, there's been an application submitted by Shannon Vernon to be part of the Fair Board. We've waited until other applications are come in. However, we were doing some interviewing with Shannon, and we discovered some particular information that made us want to accelerate it because of the way some of the things she brought to the board. However, the board manager has asked the fair manager has asked for a week to be able to look at how to integrate this in the best way of the current board for that integration process, and I would respect that because I would want any manager to be able to set the tone and direction, and we can wait till 14 August to be able to go forward with any approval or any other comments. So
Perfect.
that's what
Thank
that's
you.
about.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you for asking for the clarification. It sounded very, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
articulate the whole thing.
I did, so that's
No,
good.
you did great.
That's
I
good.
did not.
Very good job.
Okay, so now, do you have any commissioners' items? Because if not, I gotta get into executive session.
No, I know where we're going. We're
Yeah,
going
yeah.
into
Mike
executive
can
session
wait.
for a while, I guess.
Sure.
No, they can wait, yeah. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna move into executive session and for the next 30 minutes till noon, and take your microphones
Oh, yeah.
off.